Nicki Minaj's debut album, Pink Friday, released in 2010, was a marriage of hip-hop and pop that introduced the world to Nicki's range and diversity as both a rapper and a unique brand of pop star. Although she entered the industry as a rapper first and foremost, the massive success of Pink Friday's fifth single, Super Bass, proved that Nicki's ability to thrive in the pop lane as well as the rap sphere. Along with showcasing her diversity as an artist, there was also the pressure to prove herself as an artist with her debut album. Combining that with the pressure of trying to please others with her music, Nicki stated that she felt she couldn't truly have fun during the creative process of her first album. Speaking on the creative process behind Pink Friday's follow-up, Nicki expressed, "I've never had this much fun recording music in my life. My first album, I was very guarded. I felt like I was making music to please everyone else. I had to be politically correct, but this album I am just creating music, and there's such a big difference. Literally in the studio we were just cracking up, laughing, having fun, and enjoying ourselves. The music itself, you're going to get every side that I've shown and then a little bit extra. I've tried to make it very, very balanced because I don't ever want to be boxed in, and that's always what drives me, so I made a very diverse album." That album would become known as Pink Friday Roman Reloaded. Nicki's second album was first and foremost about her having fun. She'd worked very hard to prove herself and to be taken seriously as an artist during her debut era, and with its follow-up, she wanted to return to the outlandish and fun feeling that was reminiscent of her mixtapes. Roman Reloaded is an excellent showcase of the two distinct sides of Nicki Minaj. Stylistically, its 19-song track list is divided into two halves, with the first part of the album being reserved for the rap-driven tracks. This part of the album has some of my favorite Nicki songs like Come on a Cone, Bees in the Trap, Right by My Side, and the title track. The latter half of Roman Reloaded showcases mostly dance pop songs, and this side of the album has some absolute hidden gems that aren't talked about nearly enough for me, like Pound the Alarm, Whip It, and Automatic. Splitting the album in half like this is honestly a brilliant move for an artist like Nicki, and I think she could have taken this concept a step further and make it a double disc album similar to Beyonce's 2008 album I Am Sasha Fierce or Drake's 2018 album Scorpion. The album's title, Roman Reloaded, is a reference to Nicki's unhinged alter ego, Roman Zelensky. On December 2nd, 2011, Nicki released the song Roman in Moscow as a promotional single in anticipation of Pink Friday, Roman Reloaded's release. Released solely to build hype for the album, it was not included on the album proper, as Nicki admitted that she was not fond of it. Regardless, it set the tone for the era to come. Just 2 weeks later, Stupid Ho was released as the second promotional single from Roman Reloaded on December 20th, 2011. The song's music video set the Vevo record for most views accumulated in its first 24 hours, getting 4.8 million, a record that Nicki held until it was broken by Rihanna's Where Have You Been with 4.9 million, and later Justin Bieber's Boyfriend with 8 million. Nicki would also provide vocals for David Guetta's song Turn Me On, which was released as the fifth single from his album Nothing But the Beat, the same album that produced mega hits like Titanium featuring Sia and Without You featuring Usher. Nicki had appeared on an earlier single from the same album, Where Them Girls At, alongside Flo Rida. Turn Me On, while not released to promote Roman Reloaded, was included on the deluxe edition of the album, and upon its release was a good taste of what the pop half of Roman Reloaded would have to offer, in my opinion. On February 12, 2012, Nicki became the first female rapper to perform solo on the Grammy stage, debuting the opening track from Pink Friday Roman Reloaded, titled Roman Holiday. The performance garnered controversy and criticism from the Catholic Church due to its religious themes and its depiction of an exorcism. Nicki would stand firm on her creative decision despite the controversy, and years later on her Queen radio show, she would elaborate on how the performance, its backlash, and the Grammys producers would affect her career afterwards.
They came into my dressing room and said, "We don't think you should perform. We don't want you to perform anymore. This makes no sense," and there was no one there that even spoke up for me. Like, they didn't care to explain it. Nobody on either side spoke.
Yeah.
And this is after I had just done a bunch of commercials with LL Cool J to promote the Grammys. After I did everything they asked, and I said, no, I'm going to perform, of course. And then when the performance came out and it received backlash from the Catholic Church, Ken Ehrlich reached out to my then management and said, can you please tell Nicki to stop speaking about it? It's my brand. I have to explain myself. I'm the one getting backlash. And I didn't understand the power that man had to start to completely blackball me for the rest of my career. But that's exactly what happened. So he basically told me, you go out there or else. And when I went out there, because now all of my fans are expecting a performance, I'm not going to just not perform. And I just did all this to promote your show and to get viewers.
Right.
So I went out there and he blackballed me for the rest of my career. And he then made me feel afraid to speak on it because thinking, well, if you do ever want to get a Grammy, you better not speak about it.
Just 2 days after her controversial Grammy performance, Nicki would finally drop the official lead single from Pink Friday, Roman Reloaded. Starships was released on Valentine's Day 2012. Prior to this song, we'd only seen parts of the Roman side of Roman Reloaded with Roman in Moscow, Stupid Ho, and Roman Holiday. But Starships was the first glimpse at the album's more pop-driven side and exemplified what Nicki set out to do with this entire era, and that was to simply have fun with her music again. Starships to date is certified 6 times platinum and is Nicki's second highest certified solo single in the US. It is among one of the best-selling singles of all time, selling well over 7 million copies. Starships made history on the chart by having spent 21 consecutive weeks in the top 10 from its debut week, surpassing the Black Eyed Peas single I Got a Feeling, which had spent 20 weeks in the top 10 in 2009, but has been passed by Justin Bieber's Love Yourself, then the Chainsmokers' Closer. Following the massive success of the pop song Starships, the next 2 singles from Roman Reloaded would come from the hip-hop/R&B side of the album. Right By My Side featuring Chris Brown and Bees in the Trap featuring 2 Chainz were released as the second and third singles from Roman Reloaded on March 27th and May 29, 2012, respectively. On May 24th, 2012, Nicki posted a poll to her official website asking fans to pick what should be the next single from Roman Reloaded. The fan favorite deluxe edition track Va Va Voom ultimately won the poll, with Whip It coming in second and Pound the Alarm coming in third. Despite this, Pound the Alarm was ultimately released as the 4th official single from Roman Reloaded on June 12, 2012. The song peaked at number 15 on the Hot 100 and is honestly one of the highlights of the album in my opinion. Nicki notably shot the song's music video in her home country of Trinidad and Tobago. Also, literally nobody asked, but I used to tear this song up on Just Dance. It's one of my favorite songs. Va Va Voom would eventually be released as the 5th single on September 12, 2012. It was actually meant to be the album's lead single, but Starships was chosen at the last minute. The song's music video had actually been filmed the previous year in December in anticipation of the song being released as a lead single from Roman Reloaded. However, when Nicki and her label decided to go with Starships instead, the music video was shelved. Nicki also expressed that she wasn't satisfied with the end result of the music video. Va Va Voom peaked at number 2 on the Hot 100 and being a standout track on the album that received universal acclaim from critics, I believe this song deserves so much more. I would argue that it's the best pop song not only on Roman Reloaded, but out of Nicki's entire discography. Automatic was released as the 6th and final single from the album in France on October 18, 2012. On November 19, 2012, Pink Friday Roman Reloaded would receive a reissue in the form of Pink Friday Roman Reloaded The Re-Up. Released just 7 months after the original album, this reissue added 7 new songs. I always felt that this reissue deserved to be its own separate project altogether, only because sonically it was so distinct from Roman Reloaded. The project being labeled as a reissue actually did more to harm it commercially, as for more casual fans, they weren't aware that it was essentially a new release due to the confusion stemming from its title. In addition to this, big US retailers like Target and Walmart refused to sell the re-up in their stores due to the fact that the previous album re-releases by other artists hadn't sold all that well. Best Buy also reported low sales by other artists who had done re-releases, and because of this, they only took limited stock of the album to play it safe. All of this aside, I just think the re-up would have benefited far more from being labeled as its own separate project, both artistically and commercially. Regardless, it is a great body of work that houses some of Nicki's best work. The Boys featuring Cassie was released as the lead single from the reissue on September 13, 2012, just one day after Va Va Voom's release as the fifth single from the main album. The Boys was originally recorded by Cassie for her second studio album, however it was given to Nicki, who recorded her own verses and decided to keep Cassie's vocals. This is a great song in my opinion and criminally underrated, but unfortunately it peaked on the bubbling under Hot 100 charts at number 14. Freedom was released as the second single from the re-up on November 2nd, 2012, followed by High School featuring Lil Wayne as the third single on April 16, 2013. It's worth noting that Nicki hosted yet another poll asking fans what the third single should be from the re-up, and I'm Legit featuring Ciara actually won the poll. Despite this, High School was released instead. Looking back at the re-up, I've always viewed it as its own little project and era, and honestly in many ways was a foreshadowing of what direction Nicki would take in the follow-up to Roma Reloaded. Nicki's Roma Reloaded is truly an underrated era in her career and a lost piece of Nicki that I fear we'll never see again. With the follow-up to Roma Reloaded, we would see a necessary artistic growth, both in Nicki's music and image, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss the wonderfully unapologetic quirkiness of this era. Nicki was truly carefree during this period, and it's a side of her that I personally was so in love with. I will always look back on this period of her career very fondly, particularly because this would be the last that we would see of this version of Nicki Minaj. After this, things would be a bit more serious, a bit more subdued, but nonetheless, for her next era, she would give us something very potent and very raw.